God forbid, Lord, no such thing shall ever happen to you. Peter had good intentions. Just last week, he was bestowed with the keys of heaven in the gospel from last week. And now, he presents to the Lord a desire not to suffer, for him not to suffer. So, God forbid, Lord, no such things shall ever happen to you. And it's referring to the comment that Jesus gave, that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer greatly from the elders, the scribes, the chief priests, and be killed, and the third day be raised. Apparently Peter had not understood the resurrection yet. He didn't pay much attention to that, but he did not want Jesus to suffer. Obviously, the teacher and the disciple followed two opposite ways of thinking. Peter, as Jesus says, in accordance with human logic. You are thinking not as God does, but as human beings do. Jesus, on the other side, on the other hand, knows that in his immersed love for mankind, the Father sent him to give his life for them. And that if this should involve the passion of the cross, it is right that it happens that way. The intention of Jesus is the salvation of us all. Not to save his life, but to save us. It was prescribed from the moment in which God designed the incarnation of Jesus, that he was not going to come to hang out with us. He was coming to save us. That's his mission. He doesn't come just to mix up and give us a few advices. Doesn't just show us how to live a good life. He's not a motivational speaker. He comes to save us himself, to die on the cross for us. That's divine logic. That's the love of God so much that he has for us, that he sent us and he gave us his only Son. Peter's protest, however, was spoken in good faith, because he really loved the Master. But to Jesus, sounds like a temptation. A temptation that he heard many times, because many people kept telling him, avoid the cross. Don't go to Jerusalem. People will persecute you. Avoid the cross. Even to the point of Calvary, when Jesus was hanging from the cross, somebody yelled at him and told him, if you are the Son of God, come down from that cross. Us, or humanity, tainted, wants to avoid the cross at every turn. Find ways to avoid suffering at every turn. Now, clarify, I'm not talking about people who are going to just search for pain. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm speaking of the cross that God bestows on us. The suffering that comes with life itself, and the mission that God gives us. I gave a talk to altar boys on Friday, and I asked them, what is a vocation? I was talking on vocation, obviously. And what is a vocation? Is how do you know what your vocation is? And the answers were multiple, but one of them said, because there will be peace in your heart. That's how you know that you're making the right decision in life. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, there is peace in the heart when you make a decision like that, but there is a cross. We cannot separate peace from the cross. The temptation is to put them separate and thinking that it's two different things, that if there is turmoil in your soul, there is a battle going on inside, or with the world, that is, you're not at peace. No, Jesus was at peace when he was walking Calvary. Jesus was at peace when he was being crucified, because he was doing the will of the Father. See, peace comes to us if we are doing the will of God. Even if it entails that we suffer in the process. When we know and we do that which is right, that which is mandated by the Lord, not to save our own life, but to give our life for the Lord. To us, to save us all, that's why Jesus died on the cross. It was such a serious moral disease in the human person, says Pope Benedict, that required all of his blood, the disease of sin and death that Jesus comes to free us from. Indeed, it was his death and resurrection that Jesus defeated sin and death and reestablishes a kingdom on earth. For us, how does that work? An analogy, a human analogy, with all its limitations. When one is doing exercise, sometimes I exercise. I tend to exercise often. I'm gonna take some credit for that. You know, the past 2 years, as you know, I took on jogging. That was an interesting ordeal. You know, especially when you never jog and you have flat feet. It's kind of challenge you at many levels. And I used to jog with Josh. And he would just tell me when we're jogging, he says, do not listen to the mind. The mind is telling you to stop. But your will has to be stronger. You just gotta keep going. Eventually your body will collapse and we'll figure it out then. And he's going to say, it's all in the mind, it's all in the mind, you just got to keep that and keep going. And actually, I was working out the other day, and I was doing weights, and I wasn't carrying that many weights. I mean, if you look at me at the gym, don't laugh. But I was carrying a few weights, and my heart started pounding very hard. And I'm wondering what's going on, because I said, I'm not jogging, I'm not anything, I'm just carrying weights. So I asked my friend I was exercising with, and he says, well, your heart is pounding because it needs to send oxygen to the extremities. That's why our hearts move. See, the interesting logic that I found in that as I was doing that, see, even then I'm preparing my sermon. The interesting thing is that the heart does not work on its own. The will has to move the heart. I have to will to go to the gym. I have to will to pick up weights. I have to will to exercise. And the heart will accelerate according to my will and my reason. The heart does not dictate. Reason and will dictate. In our culture, we're this way. That's why we don't follow the cross. Because the heart is afraid. And we're like, why are we going to do a cross? Why are we going to follow a cross? Why are we going to do something that doesn't feel right? And we follow the heart too much and deplete it from reason and will. What would I do in exercising as an analogy? What would I do if I were to follow the beatings of my heart? I'd be in the couch. Because the heart is not going to pump much in the couch. I'm not going to wait for the heart to stop pumping so I can get up and do something. You have to do it, you have to will it, you have to go, and you have to go, and the heart will follow. The heart follows. Why is that important for us to look at? Because that's the cross. The cross does not feel right. Does not feel comfortable. Does not feel like, dippity-doo. The cross has not the feeling, in the world that we live in around us, keeps telling us otherwise. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If it feels right, do it. Look at the mess we live in because of that. Morally. You know? People just do according to the heart, to the feeling, what it feels right. And we have all kinds of problems because there is lack of reason, lack of discernment. That's what Paul was telling the Romans in the second reading today. I urge you. See, St. Paul understood human nature, trying to avoid the cross at every level that we can because we do not want to suffer. So St. Paul is asking the Romans to trust him. I urge you, brothers and sisters, not for me but by the mercy of God, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God, your spiritual worship. And then the challenge, do not conform yourselves to this age. It's an ageless advice and exhortation that St. Paul gives us to this day. Do not conform. We are always in the temptation of just blending in. in the world that we live in. We are afraid of standing out. We want to conform, assimilate. I think the one is from Star Trek. You know, we want to fit in that way, and the world wants to do that to us. See, God respects our identity. God respects our freedom. The devil doesn't. The devil wants to turn us like him. He wants us to be more like him. He wants to make us in his image. For us, that's the battle, because we have to continuously seek the help of the Lord. The responsorial song today points to this fact. Oh God, you are my God whom I seek. For you my flesh pines and my soul thirsts. That's an indication that what you have before you is the cross. That you have to make a special sacrifice. That you have to go a little bit further. That will stretch out our spiritual life. Otherwise, we continuously conform to our will or desire, which is crooked. And we don't grow. We don't grow. My flesh pines for you, and my soul thirsts, like the earth parched, lifeless, and without water. My soul clings fast to you. Your right hand holds me fast. These beautiful psalms, we call them Psalms of Lamentation, speak so beautifully of a soul that is carrying a cross. When the soul carries the cross, this is what it feels like. When you cling to God and God alone, because only He can get you out of this one. You just cling to Him. You look for Him. And that's a sign that is the will of God and not your own. That's a sign that God is calling you when one puts oneself and trusts it completely to the Lord. For us, it's not so easy. Evil exists and resists in every generation, but for us, it's not so easy. How does it look on everyday life? An example is parenting. Parents carry a lot of crosses. When you're trying to raise your children, especially if you're trying to raise them in the faith, you're going to have a lot of crosses. Children, I mean, they have original sin. They're cute and all, but they have original sin. You know, and the parents try to sacrifice themselves to do everything for the child that is good for the child in order for the child to grow with good faith, good morals. And parents have to offer all these sacrifices constantly in order to do that. That's the cross. So when somebody makes a mistake and they come and tell me, Father, my girlfriend is pregnant, and I don't know if I'm called to be a father yet. Come on, you are called to be a father. That's your call. That's your mission. You know, we gotta get out of this. It doesn't feel right. It won't feel right. It's called a cross. It's not gonna feel right. We put so many excuses because we want to follow the fuzziness of our hearts. And we keep putting excuses and excuses to say no and take responsibility and follow the will of God. This is what God wants. When a child is conceived in the womb, guess God is calling you to be a mother. From that moment on, your life is changed. You're no longer yourself. That's a cross, and with it comes a mission. That's how you know that it belongs to God, because it comes with a mission. The mission of being a good mother, a good father, to raise your children in the practice of the faith. That's what God wants. Why does God give children to people? It's an ageless question. Because He loves us. He loves us. He wants more children. His love is endless, and He wants more children. He wants the love of more human beings. What happens with us if we don't just follow the beats of our hearts, my brothers and sisters, is that we fall into Christian mediocrity. Look at mediocrity in a spiritual life, in a moral life as well. An example, you know, usually in this time of the year when we start in religious education, a lot of programs are starting in our parish and this and that, And then you hear the groanings of the sheep in the parish. You know, as a shepherd, you're trying to steer the flock in one direction, and they make noises, you know, like, We don't like this, Father. So this is the season, you know, and you know when it's the season of harvest for a pastor, this is it. This is when you start to hear the groanings of the sheep, you know. Parents, sometimes they call and say, Father, I don't like a catechism on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Can we put it on another day? It conflicts with Samba. Or something else, Zumba. I know there are Zumba classes in the morning too, come on. Do the same gym that everybody does. You know, it conflicts with soccer practice. It conflicts with soccer. I don't like it that it's at night. I don't like it in the afternoon. I don't like to pay $60, but it's too much money for 1 year's worth of education for your child. I don't like this. I don't like that. It's the groaning of the sheep. Why? Because it's a cross. You know, sometimes my staff asks me, Father, what can we do to accommodate them? Nothing, because they do not want to take the cross. And there is no Jesus without a cross. I cannot take that away from you. Father, why do I have to go to an hour and a half of classes to commit my children for catechism, for baptism, because it's going to be a Christian for life? An hour and a half is too inconvenient for me. It's a little cross. You know, but for me, when I looked at it, I don't look at it, oh, how inconvenient. Let's make it online so they can do it when they're jogging. See, is the heart wanting to conform itself to the world. There are hearts that want the church to conform itself to the world. Father, I want to go to church to entertain my children. Father, I don't want you to speak harsh homilies. Keep it soft. Keep it simple. Keep it practical. And if possible, keep Jesus out of it. I'm venting. You only heard half of it. You know, where is the passion for the cross? Jesus does not say, you know, come and hang out with me. Jesus says, take up your cross and follow me. If you want to lose your life, go ahead and lose it. How do you lose your life? I see so many young people losing their life, and it's annoying. Living in a limbo, don't know what to choose for. I don't know. Should I study this? Should I study that? Should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. And at the end of the day, they do nothing. Because every turn, there will be a cross. And if you just want to avoid the cross, guess what? You're going to be paralyzed. So we got to learn how to take up the cross. How do we do it? We follow the will of God. What the Lord is asking of us, and trust. Complete trust. Trust in Mother Church. Trust in Holy Mother. She tells us she's a very strong woman. She tells us what to do all the time. Trust in Holy Mother. She tells us you have to go to 2 years of catechism, do it. Trust. She tells you got to take your kids to youth group, do it. Trust. We're opening, people complain, they say, Father, you have so many evangelization programs, we don't know which one to go. Go to all of them. You know, just go. Trust. I don't know if I should teach catechism. Trust. I wouldn't allow you to teach catechism if I didn't trust you. But we need catechism. And the most reason that people gave me that they don't want to teach catechism is because they do not want to take a cross. That's bottom line is that they don't want to take a cross. I'm afraid of talking to second graders about it. Well, let's see how you get over that. But we'll coach you. We'll walk you through it. The church has done it for 2,000 years. Believe me, we'll survive. Help us. Help the church. The church carries the cross with you. You carry the cross with the church. Do not try to alienate yourself, because that's the first temptation. The good thing I learned when I was jogging is that I couldn't jog on my own. I had to follow someone else. That's what the church is all about. We cannot do church alone. There is no such thing as a self-paced church. You have to do it with all, as one. As an image for us is the Blessed Virgin Mary. The Virgin Mary, from the moment that she received the news of the angel and conceived Jesus in her womb, she began to follow him. Mary is the first disciple of Jesus because she began to follow him. Even if Jesus was in her womb, she was following him all the way to Elizabeth, all the way to the cross. Mary did not waver, even lost. She just followed him all the way to Calvary. And there she was, the mother of Jesus. We ask you to help us. So in times when we feel weak, turn to the Virgin Mary. In times in which you feel like stranded and want to go another place and you think something Zumba is more important than God, turn to the Virgin Mary. You can pray the rosary while dancing. But always turn to the Mother of God that she may turn you to Jesus. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.